Progress.
Up 2.5, hold on. Clean. Somebody.
Good afternoon. I would like to open our meeting today for the public hearing concerning the 2023 New York State Community Development Block Grant Assistance Program. If you are here to speak on that behalf, please make your way to the microphone. We're just going to wait about 30 seconds or so. And I do have Elliot Benman, who is here to speak on behalf of this public hearing.
Correct. I want to provide some information about the CDBG program and then offer an opportunity for public feedback if there is any. So the purpose of this public hearing is to provide information on the New York State Office of Community Renewal Community Development Block Grant Program, otherwise known as CDBG, and provide opportunity for citizen feedback on community development needs and on any planned applications to the CDBG program for program year 2023 from Tompkins County. To provide some background information, the program provides financial assistance to eligible cities, towns, villages, and counties to develop viable communities by providing decent, affordable housing and a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. For the 2023 program year, the New York State CDBG program will make available to eligible local governments approximately $50 million for housing, public facilities, public infrastructure, and economic development and planning activities. Tompkins County is eligible to apply for up to $1 million in CDBG funds in the 2023 program year for housing activities, and is also eligible to pursue additional funding up to an overall total of $3.55 million in any of the other CDBG programmatic areas. The Office of Community Renewal released a request for applications for housing activities, actually earlier today, as it happens. The Department of Planning and Sustainability intends to submit an application for this year's CDBG funding for housing rehabilitation activities. The local rehab program would provide home repairs, rehabilitation, and energy efficiency upgrade services. Currently, the amount that we plan to request from the Office of Community Renewal is approximately $588,000 with the goal of assisting 20 households. Provision of the services will be administered by a nonprofit subrecipient, INHS. 100% of the funding would advance the CDBG national objective of benefiting low and moderate income persons or households by restricting participation to households making at or below 80% of area median income. The assistance can be provided throughout Tompkins County except in the city of Ithaca because they receive separate CDBG funds directly from HUD. And finally, we're required as part of this public hearing to identify any CDBG activities likely to result in displacement of residents. We do not believe that the proposed rehab activities will result in any displacement. So we welcome any feedback from members of the public at this time, and also 48 hours after this this hearing. People can submit any comments to me as per the contact information in the public notice, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I also have Delia Yarrow from INHS with us to help answer any questions you might have.
Mike Lane.
Thanks for that rundown. That was helpful. Can any of this money be used to rehab manufactured homes in manufactured home parks?
I'll give you a quick answer, and then Delia can correct me if I'm wrong. But this, no, and this, for the rehab money that we're going for, it wouldn't be for manufactured home parks. However, there is manufactured homes. However, there is a separate CDBG funding for the purpose of repairing and replacing manufactured homes. I believe with the restriction that the homeowner also has to own the land, so which is a barrier for providing that service in manufactured home parks where they're renting the lot. Delia, you can jump in if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. It's Delia from INHS, also on Zoom. So yeah, CDBG funding has restrictions that make it pretty much impossible to help with manufactured homes, even on owned land. INHS is currently working on 2 grants that will allow us to work in manufactured home communities. We can do accessibility modifications, and we're almost spent down on one that we haven't had for 20 years that is doing emergency repairs for elderly homeowners in manufactured home communities and throughout Tompkins County. So it's exciting to finally, we know the need is there, and we try to meet it as best as we can with the restrictions on the funding we get. So we're really excited to have gotten funding through Restore this year for the first time in 20 years. And hopefully that will be something that we get repeatedly so that we can help, at least in the circumstance where the homeowner is a senior.
Thanks. And that's what we've heard year after year after year, that they won't allow manufactured homes and parks to qualify. I'm very sad about that, because there are a lot of, frankly, shacks in manufactured home parks throughout the county. They are our log cabins. They are our basic housing for an awful lot of rural people, and they are many times substandard. And we really need to get money, not only to help rehabilitate those for the elderly, which is particularly important, yes, but for other families that live in these manufactured homes.
Mike Sigler?
I was just wondering, though, I went up for a tour of your new place up in Trumansburg, Compass. I mean, that's manufactured home, but you own it, so this, I guess, could apply to that, correct? I mean,
No, CDBG requires fee simple ownership, so ownership of the structure and the land. So we cannot use the CDBG funding even at Compass, which INHS did purchase. And I did omit, actually, we are for the first time administering funding at Compass to try to replace 3 really substandard units with new units. So ones where the repairs are beyond what we could do with $20,000 and they just need a new unit. So that is also new funding that we have this year. Also funding that we are hoping we can, repeatedly apply for to improve homes within manufactured home communities. But again, 3 units is very limited, where that is federal money, so comes with similar governance complications as the CDBG funding. So we're starting small to make sure that we're successful in meeting all their requirements and iron out all the things they're going to require of us in order to move that forward. So my coworker, Ben Carver, is working on that project in conjunction with my department. But yeah, that is an exciting thing, just a very slow build comparison to the need in terms of us being able to address it, I'm afraid.
thanks.
Hey, is there anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of this public hearing concerning the 2023 New York State Community Development Block Grant Assistance Program? Okay. I would like to close the public hearing. We are going to take about a 2-minute break real quick in order to close out this Zoom and set up our technology.
Thank you, everybody. community, and Elliot has my contact information, so if folks have follow-up questions for me and Elliot, we will tackle them together.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Recording in progress.
Are we good? Okay. Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. The time is 5:42, and welcome to the Tompkins County Legislature. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could have a roll call of members, please.
Dan Klein.
Here.
Ann Corman.
Present.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Greg Mezzi.
Here.
Veronica Pillar.
Here.
Lee Shirtliff.
Here.
Mike Sigler.
Here.
Travis Brooks.
Here.
Randy Brown.
Here.
Amanda Champion.
Here.
Susan Curry.
Here.
Ms. Dawson's asked to be excused. Rich John.
Here.
Shauna Black.
Here.
13 members present.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to, we have two proclamations this evening. The first one is for Building Safety Month, and I would ask Lee Shirtliff to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Shauna. We have a proclamation here. Whereas Tompkins County is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assist us and assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. Whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in our community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to us by all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature does hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month in Tompkins County, and accordingly encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. In witness whereof, Shauna Black have hereunto set her hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of Tompkins County, State of New York, on the 16th day of May 2023. And I'd like to introduce a guest that's with us tonight. Marty Mosley is Code Enforcement Officer for Town of Ithaca, previously with the Village of Lansing, and is President of the New York State Building Officials Conference. And during my tenure as President of the State Fire Chiefs Association, the fire service organizations began to partner with the Building Officials Conference, and they're a very active lobby working for our local governments in Albany. And I'm pleased that the president of that association is from Tompkins County and is here to accept the proclamation from Chairman Black.
Thank you. It's an honor to be provided this from the Legislature of Tompkins County. Everyone in the industry works extremely hard to make sure that the buildings are safe to work in, sleep in, and enjoy our life in. For our children, for ourselves, we'll continue to endeavor to do that. But it's not just code officials, it's everybody. It really is. It's all of the industries, all of the tradespeople, and without everyone together, we wouldn't have safe buildings. So thank you very much. Thank you for the proclamation. We appreciate it on behalf of the State of New York code officials.
Okay, we have one more proclamation this evening. Whereas Memorial Day was uniquely New York, having begun in 1866 as Decoration Day, approximately 1 hour north of Tompkins County in Waterloo, and whereas Memorial Day is reserved to honor and pay respects to the military lives that have been lost, a day set aside for veteran, military families, and civilians to decorate the grave sites of the late military service members whose sacrifice they want to never be forgotten. And whereas residents of this great state and county must never forget the courage with which these members of our armed forces serve their country, and must recognize that no debt is greater than that owed to those who gave their lives for their beloved nation, as well as to those who continue to be missing in action. And whereas the service members who died for our freedom represent the diverse patchwork that is the United States of America, encompassing all stations of wealth, class, race, gender, geography, and ideology. And whereas in this year that we celebrate the 22nd anniversary of Memorial Day, becoming a national holiday, we also commemorate the 50th anniversary of the closing of the Vietnam War, a war that claimed the lives of more than 58,000 military members, including more than 4,100 New Yorkers, of among who were 12 sons of Tompkins County. And whereas military service comes with inherent dangers, whether at military base, in training, or in a combat zone, forcing loved ones of those lost to mourn that sacrifice while teaching everyone around them to celebrate those lives and their service. And whereas local veterans organizations, their supporters, and veterans' families will fan out this weekend of Memorial Day to cemeteries across Tompkins County to adorn with U.S. flags the final resting place of late service members so that their commitment to the country is never forgotten. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature does hereby proclaim May 29th, 2023 as Memorial Day in Tompkins County, and accordingly encourages all residents to pay honor and respect to our fallen and late military members who put their lives on the line in defense of freedom. In witness whereof, I, Shauna Black, have hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the Great Seal of Tompkins County, State of New York, on this 16th day of May 2023. And we do have J.R. Claiborne here to accept the proclamation.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to say that thank you for this proclamation, and to say that this is a holiday, a Memorial Day, that is a time for us to pause and remember and reflect on the sacrifices made by our military members, both those who were killed in combat as well as those who died after or as veterans. Something to remember about Memorial Day is that it's not only the veteran, it's not only the active military member, but it's also their families. I've learned with other people, and I've learned through my own experience that no one member serves by themselves. If you've ever had somebody in your family, you know that everybody's by the phone, they're watching the TV, they're watching the news. Nowadays, you're on your phone. Something to keep abreast of what's happening with the military, and so no one serves alone. Anytime, I know my mom used to love it when I'd call home. I thought it was the excitement to be able to call her from somewhere overseas, but for her, she was just happy to hear from me. So it's a lot of things to just keep in mind that as the proclamation says that whether it's in combat, whether it's in training, there's inherent dangers just in service of your country. Just because you've raised your hand and put on a uniform, you don't know what comes next except to be in service of your country and being prepared to, at any cost, even put your life on the line. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the city crews, the BVA Chapter 377, and our probation department who work on maintaining the DeWitt Park and the War Memorial outside. And if you saw this weekend in the news that someone decided to treat that as their scrap paper or their own easel with purple paint. And I just went out there to look at this before I came in here just to see if that was cleaned up or not. And thankfully, most of it was. There is some of it still there. But there are a few teenagers there talking and things, and I walked over by them because I was trying to see behind them. So I said, hey, excuse me, I'm just trying to look and see if everything's cleaned up. They're like, yeah, we heard about that. That's so sad. I said, yeah, I wonder if whoever did this realizes that this is somebody's family. And I wonder if they themselves have someone in their family who's on one of these walls of the monument. And for me personally, I'm looking at the monument that still has paint on it, and I know the families of some of those names that are on there. And when you can personalize it like that, you want to protect something like that. You don't want to see anyone deface it. And I just wonder if the people who have done it, this isn't the only time, unfortunately, that this has been done, but I like to wonder, I often wonder if the people who are doing this, would they like it if someone did that to something of theirs that means something special to them or their family? It's really something to think about. We have to think outside of ourselves sometimes, but a lot of times it's good to think inwardly too, because if you don't want it done to you, why would you do it to someone else's? So, get off my soapbox, but I just wanted to say thank you for everybody. I just want to put that moment of reflection out there. As noted, a lot of people will be involved this weekend with, not this weekend, Memorial Day weekend with putting flags out at our cemeteries. And I want to say thank you to the legislature also for your support of that, because the legislature the county purchases those legislators by virtue of thanks for you, for your contribution. So appreciate the support of our veterans community. Thank you.
Mike Lane.
Thank you for that, and it's not a soapbox. It's the right thing to say, and those people who deface a monument to our fallen are pretty shallow in whatever thoughts they have when they do things like that, and pretty selfish. I do want to say that on our desk this evening, and I think Lee brought them in, are poppies. And Lee, I don't want to step on you on that, but I know it's for the disabled veterans. And I'm glad to have one of those and be able to wear it.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next we do have some certificates of appreciation. We do have 2 legislators who have survived and made it to their 5-year mark. I'd like to give the certificate to Ann Corman. Let me bring it to you. Speech. I am going to reorder our business a little bit this evening. I thought it would be important in reading the news, and I know that we've had a lot of questions and discussions amongst our legislature about people that are seeking asylum, and I thought it would be really important to actually put the statement out early in this meeting in case there are people that are here to speak tonight. I want to make sure that you have the facts and some of the information as far as where Tompkins County is headed. Tompkins County has always prided itself in being a caring, accepting, and open community. As we observed during the pandemic, we have the tools and people to manage an emergency, coordinate with our partners, and to communicate with our community. In the future, Tompkins County may be in a position to welcome asylum seekers. If given the opportunity, we would do so with coordinated resources and open communication with the state, local partners, and our community. Tens of thousands of asylum seekers have been transported from southern U.S. to New York City over the past several months. The city says that few resources remain available to house the newcomers. After calls from other counties for more communication and coordination with the city and the state, the governor says that her team is working to first increase resources to New York City. They are also considering options where some asylum seekers may be relocated to more welcoming communities upstate. Plans are in development for if we were to receive asylum seekers. Our administration, emergency response, social services, and sheriff's department staff are working diligently and staying informed on the issues as they develop. We are fortunate to have a caring community with so much goodwill. As with any challenge or opportunity, we rely on our residents, businesses, religious organizations, and not-for-profits to work with us to ensure safe and positive outcomes. I expect the same if we were to welcome asylum seekers. Right now, as we await more information, we're asking the community to be patient. If we are to receive asylum seekers, we would commit to as robust and compassionate accommodations as we are able to offer. In any case, we would only be able to effectively welcome a limited number of asylum seekers. We're in coordination with relevant community partners on how we might house and deliver services to these individuals. I want to be very transparent with the fact that actions to potentially house asylum seekers come as our local homelessness issue is growing. We acknowledge that. Regardless of how this plays out, we can no longer endlessly debate proposals and leave those in need and unhoused without actions to ensure stable housing and effective services. I would challenge us to consider comparably rapid brainstorming, leadership, and political will to house people in Tompkins County. Yes, it's complicated, but it is also possible. The United States has an imperfect immigration and asylum system. Regardless of delays in inaction at the state and federal levels, welcoming communities like ours can do our small part to offer safe harbor. As with many things in government, this is about balance and creating a community where people feel safe, care for, and each person can contribute. As we navigate uncertain times, our goal as a county government will be focused on transparent and timely communication to our constituents. We continue to look to our highly qualified staff for information and direction. In closing, those who seek asylum in Tompkins County will be welcomed as our new neighbors. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to privilege of the floor. And let me just read the rules for speaking under privilege of the floor. An individual may speak no longer than 3 minutes. A speaker will not raise their voice. A speaker will not use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language, or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. A speaker will not speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about job performances of named county employees other than elected officials. After 3 minutes, a speaker will leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. A speaker will not cause a disruption, and if asked to leave, will leave the chambers. First person is Zach Wynn.
Good afternoon. My name is Zach Wynn. I would like to speak in opposition to the proposed city and county plans to address encampments on public land, specifically the Home Together Tompkins Continuity of Care document and the draft policy for unsanctioned encampments on city property. These are not, quote, homeless encampments. They are open drug scenes. Open drug scenes are gatherings of drug users who publicly consume and deal drugs. Both of these plans continue the failed policy of tolerating illegal camping on city land. Being homeless is not a crime. The activities that occur in these camps are criminal. Taken together, these plans would create what amounts to a 40-acre concentration camp for the homeless behind Walmart. Specifically, these plans do not call for the enforcement of the camping ban on city property. To quote from the Continuum of Care document, the Continuum of Care believes that increasing the stock of available rental units and shelter for this population must happen before the city of Ithaca attempts to close any existing camps. Allowing these camps to continue means continuing to allow fires, explosions, organized theft, stolen bicycle chop shops, meth cooking, murder, overdoses, human trafficking, sexual assault, and other forms of violence. The Home Together and city plans calls would allow this behavior to continue. The city has fenced the area between Cecil Malone and Brindley Street that was used by everyday citizens to avoid the several block walk past the art house. Merely fencing the area is not a solution. There is already someone camping in the fenced area. Existing problem campsites in the area on the far side of the inlet are on Norfolk Southern Railroad property behind Warehouse Carpet Outlet. The space is not part of the fenced area or the red zone. Recently, the campsite of lost cat artist John Gavin Mahoney was set ablaze as a form of memorial in this area following his death. The Ithaca Fire Department had to deploy 1,100 feet of hose to extinguish the blaze. Along with the deaths in the encampments, these fires will continue. The city and county policy needs to be one of zero tolerance, cleaning of the sites, clearing of trees, and escalating consequences for violating the law. Conceivably, orders of protection could be issued barring the individuals from city property. If they returned, they would be in violation of a stay-away order. All that is required to end these encampments is the will to do so. Housing first is a bad policy that rewards negative behavior. The policy of the city and county should be shelter first and treatment first. The drugs being used in the encampments are primarily methamphetamine and fentanyl. People using these drugs are in crisis and need a major intervention to stop their self-destructive actions. Many recovered drug addicts will tell you that going cold turkey in a jail cell is the best thing that ever happened to them. Going to jail is not necessarily a bad outcome for a person struggling with addiction who is living on public land. Many of the organizations and individuals who contributed to these plans have a personal stake in perpetuating the drug encampments and allowing people to remain in crisis. Tompkins County should be known as a place where if you try to live on public land, you will be forced to get clean. A different approach, similar to a wet shelter that allows those suffering from addiction access to a free, uncontaminated supply of drugs, would alleviate the need for continuous property crime. It would also starve drug dealers and gangs of revenue, competition among which is the source of the majority of gun violence in the area. The city and county plans will only serve to exacerbate existing issues in the West End while failing to address the root causes of those issues. With the issue of immigrants being sent upstate already known by this body, I ask the legislature to closely examine any proposed policy's second-order consequences before it is implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Robert Lynch.
Good evening, Robert Lynch, councilperson, town of Enfield. This may seem a little like deja vu because 2 weeks ago I was here to talk to you about the Enfield Community Council. And once again, I'm here to talk to you about the Enfield Community Council, and there's a reason for this. First, before I go further, we are having, the Enfield Community Council's having, a rhubarb festival this coming Saturday. It's from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. at the Enfield Community Center. If you like rhubarb, if you don't like rhubarb, there's plenty to do and plenty to sample. There's going to be a pork barbecue. There's going to be a pancake breakfast beginning at 9 o'clock. And the Enfield Community Council puts this on. It's the second year we've had the Rhubarb Festival. I should have brought a bunch of rhubarb here as a site prop, if you will, but I didn't. But I will tell you, this is a wonderful, wonderful event, and I will be there. I hope each of you will take time to be there, and many of your constituents will be there. Now to the principal point of why I'm here for the ECC. You'll remember that 2 weeks ago at the meeting of the legislature, my legislator, Randy Brown, introduced a member-filed resolution that would request the state of New York to waive what amounts to now about $20,000 in taxes that the Enfield Community Council, through an oversight admittedly, paid in property taxes to the county, the town of Enfield, its fire protection district, and the Ithaca City School District. The resolution that's on the table that you will act on tonight, and I hope you'll approve it, will ask the state legislature to pass a special law that will waive that charge. I know some people say that's going to be setting a precedent and that's not really good. Well, you've got to remember the circumstance here. The Enfield Community Councils had some tough times post-pandemic, and not once but twice they came very, very close to getting community recovery funds, and each time they fell short. The ECC could use this $20,000 waiver to help it meet its expenses and recover post-pandemic. It's money they shouldn't have had to pay, but paid it anyway because the law said they should, because they didn't file a piece of paper by the tax status state. I hope you'll consider this request by Legislator Brown and make this special exception and ask the state to come to the Enfield Community Council's aid. They do a world of good. I volunteer for them, and I'm proud I do. It's one of those shining stars that make Enfield special. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dominic, do we have anyone here via Zoom? Okay. I would like to announce that we will not be having an executive session this evening. And next, we will open the floor to municipal officials. And I see Jorge from the City of Ithaca. Hello.
Hey, folks. I wasn't sure if I should pause for applause when you announced no executive session. We made it all the same. All right, I've only got a couple of updates. I imagine George was here earlier this month to give you much of the rundown, but still some updates. So as you all know, the City of Ithaca endorsed the Home Together Tompkins plan to address homelessness, broadly speaking, in our community. The plan, as we all know, calls for prioritization of permanent supportive housing and a housing-first approach to dealing with the homelessness crisis. And I'm looking forward to working with the county and the continuum of care and making sure that we can implement and stay true to it, because I do believe it is a phenomenal plan that is a model for the rest of the country for how we can deal with the homelessness crisis. That said, following up on that, the draft policy that the city will be introducing for a vote will come back to Planning Economic Development Committee this coming June, as we're still trying to discuss elements of the plan. This has been a long process, and we've had multiple meetings with stakeholders, advocates, outreach workers, and of course, members of this body. And so I'm looking forward to continuing those conversations and finding a solution, because I believe we are very close to that. Looking at my notes here, we also, staying on the same topic, we released contingency funds for different amenities for the unhoused populations at our previous Common Council meeting. So we're talking about trying to build some more facilities and amenities so that folks who are living in these conditions can have safer, sanitary, and more healthy quality of life. And again, looking forward to seeing how we can implement that now that we've got it on paper, and now we got to get the practice of it going. So looking forward to hopefully provide some productive updates on that in the near future. We also approved a resolution to authorize a potential increase in our police chief's salary. We've been talking about the instability at the Ithaca Police Department, and so we are trying to create some more permanent solutions so that we can move forward with the reimagining public safety process. And so that was one of the steps that we've taken so that we can have a more competitive process for the Ithaca Police Chief position. And then last on my list, for the most part, is that we also approved selecting artwork for our electrical boxes that artists from around the community have contributed to, and they look really beautiful. As I mentioned at Common Council, I think it was a tough time trying to figure out which one we liked the most, but we did have a couple of wonderful artists whose work we will be seeing very soon, if not already. I'll just shout out a couple of folks that I have here on my list, not entirely inclusive, but just a couple of names: Bethany Parisi, Cruz Newman, Joshua Swartwood, Carolina Piorco, Maya Kwamaiva, and Amy Mahida, just to name a few. But there are so many other artists, and I'm looking forward to hopefully naming and taking pictures with their artwork as we're walking through our beautiful city. Those are my updates for the most part. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jorge? You did, Mike Sigler. Can you speak into your microphone, Mike?
Yeah. The voting is tomorrow on the camping, and if it passes, how will you get people out of the red zone, I guess?
So it is not going to be a vote. The policy will not be a voting item at our PEDC meeting tomorrow for that very reason, because we are working with different entities throughout the city, our outreach workers with law enforcement and other groups, to try and hammer down how exactly an enforcement mechanism would look out. It's a difficult process, and we want to make sure that we're keeping true to our values, that we're not criminalizing homelessness, and there are a lot of different approaches and opinions on how to best handle that situation. And so we're having those conversations continuously. And I want to give a tremendous amount of credit to our city staff like Nels Bone, Lisa Nicholas, and Mike Thorne, amongst others, Deb Molinova, who are working tirelessly on this. And we're having multiple meetings. I'm looking forward to having an update at tomorrow's meeting, and hopefully something more concrete in June when we come to a vote.
One more question. I read in Finger Lakes Times, somebody sent out the article that the city had decided not to go forward with doing away with the police department. I didn't know how accurate that story was. I don't know if you saw that story.
I mean, I did see it. I think the fact of the matter is that we were never considering abolishing the police department, at least to my knowledge. The recommendations passed, as we did earlier this year with implementing reimagining public safety, and none of those recommendations include that, and it was never part of the discussion. In fact, a lot of the parameters for reimagining public safety as a process began with commitments to not alter the police department budget and to ensure that officers would retain their job, as what was agreed upon as things went on. And so that was never, I can't speak to like the source of that article or what have you, but that was never on the table to begin with.
Randy Brown.
Yes, thank you. The city cleaned up a big area earlier this year. Are there any plans for the other areas that have been identified as having a lot of trash and whatnot to clean that up?
Yeah, I think we're going to have multiple conversations. I think right now our main focus is trying to figure out our long-term overarching plans in terms of, like, as we mentioned, endorsing Home Together Tompkins and working on the draft policy right now. And once we have those affairs and orders, those conversations are happening parallel with like our Department of Public Works, and we'll, I hope to provide some more updates on that in regards to other locations. But of course, we want not just sanitary and healthy situations throughout the city for like how it looks and the impact of neighboring folks, but also for the conditions of the people who are living there as unhoused individuals. We want to make sure that that folks are not living in tough situations and with unideal conditions.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jorge from the City of Ithaca? Comments? Okay. Thank you so much for visiting tonight.
Of course.
We really appreciate it.
Take care.
You too. Okay. Anyone else here for municipal officials? Okay. Now let's move on to legislator privilege of the floor. Lee Shirtliff.
Thank you, Shauna. I was glad to see J.R. Claiborne here tonight, and I'm glad you stayed for a little while longer. There's not much that I can say as eloquently or as heartfelt as what J.R. has said, but in keeping with the impending Memorial Day, I wanted to bring to the legislature's attention May 26th, 2023 is Poppy Day. And I've placed, and these came from Post 800 American Legion, their auxiliary, poppies at everybody's desk. And just tell you what that signifies. Poppy Day is celebrated in countries around the world. The American Legion family brought National Poppy Day to the United States by asking Congress to designate the Friday before Memorial Day as National Poppy Day. On the Friday before Memorial Day, they asked that we wear a red poppy to honor the fallen and support the living who have worn our nation's uniform. I'm sure many of you heard in school or have read the John McCrae 1918 poem, In Flanders Fields. It comes from World War I, having witnessed battles in Flanders Fields in Belgium in the spring of 1915. Afterwards, McCrae noticed the phenomenon of the churned up battlefields where poppies bloomed amid the devastated landscape, which had become the resting places for the fallen, many of the fallen in World War I. And the red poppy since has become a nationally recognized symbol of sacrifice worn by Americans since World War I to honor those who served and died for our country in all wars. It reminds Americans of the sacrifices made by our veterans while protecting our freedoms. This is led by the American Legion Auxiliary each year, and members of the American Legion family distribute poppies with a request that the person receiving the flower make a donation to support the future of veterans, active duty military personnel, and their families with medical and financial needs. So a donation has been made to the auxiliary, and I hope that you will all wear these through the Memorial Day weekend, and especially on May 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Greg Mezzi.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that Saturday, May 20th, is Connect the Trails Fest. This will connect the East Hill Recway and the Dryden Rail Trail at Game Farm Road, a crossing that our County Highway Department, as well as the town of Dryden and the town of Ithaca, were instrumental in putting together, along with probably some guidance from the state of New York at some point. But it should be a fun event. There is a website, drydenrailtrail.org, under their events tab, where what they're hoping to do is have folks out utilizing the trail, coming from either ends to sort of connect there at Game Farm Road. Game Farm Road will be closed down for a brief period of time as we sort of make some, formal announcements and an opening of the crossing, and then there'll be some celebration to follow. But should be a lot of fun. Should be a fun event. Super family friendly. Get out and enjoy nature for a little bit in the trails, and hopefully the weather holds out. But just a big shout out to Jeff Smith and his team from the county for making that a priority in their work plan and connecting this great resource that we have, which just continues to expand our trail system throughout the county.
Thank you, Greg. What are the dates? What's the date again?
Yeah, that's Saturday, May 20th, with the formalities starting at noon and anywhere from 10:30 on, depending on where you decide to park, making your way on the trail.
Great, thank you. Ann Corman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to first off thank Lee for making the donation for us, and gladly, proudly wear the poppy through Memorial Day. And switching topic, I want to just acknowledge the number of mass shootings we've had in the United States in just 4.5 months so far this year, 2023. We've had 202 mass shootings. It's hard to keep track. I think there was 2 more this weekend. I know it's traumatizing for me to hear about it. I'm sure it's traumatizing to a lot of people. And of course, it's extremely traumatizing to the people who have lost their loved ones. This past 2 days ago marked the 1-year anniversary of the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, where 10 people were killed and 3 people were wounded. And so I know myself and I hope other people support efforts on a state and national level to limit especially semi-automatic and automatic guns in this country. And a couple of other quick topics. I attended a rally this weekend on the Commons in support of Starbucks workers, and I just want to let them know publicly that I support them. The stores in Ithaca were the first ones in the United States to fully unionize, and Starbucks subsequently is closing all the stores. And all those employees, their closest store is in Cortland, which is pretty, for most of them, it's too far for them to go, and there's just too many employees, because now that's a total of 3 stores they've closed in Ithaca. Next, school board voting is today for most areas around the county, so if you haven't voted yet, I voted earlier today. It was in Trumansburg. It was quite a line, which is great to see so many people out voting. And at least in the Trumansburg School District, there's also on the ballot a referendum to support the library and to buy additional buses, as well as the school budget. And lastly, I'll just quickly mention, since we're mentioned something happening in our areas, in Trumansburg, there's the annual rubber duck race by our Rotary, Trumansburg Rotary, and that's at noon. And if you get there a little early, you can buy a duck and can participate in the contest. And that's Saturday. Thank you. And also at the same time, while you're in Trumansburg, there's a community-wide garage sales. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. I have Rich John and then Randy Brown.
Thank you. Greg, I'm glad you mentioned the trail opening. I had a chance to go out on it on Sunday. It is beautiful. The crossing over Game Farm Road looks really good. I think it is a safe crossing. You know, it certainly has enough protections for drivers and pedestrians and bicyclists. I think they did a very nice job there. JR, thank you for your comments. I was planning to talk about this because I saw that article about the damage to the War Memorial, and it made me so angry. You know, when we get up in the morning and we go out in public, we're really, everything we do either builds community or detracts from it. And I don't understand graffiti and defacing public spaces. You know, it's obviously selfish, and imposing your supposed, I hate to even call it artwork, but markings on other people's property. But you take it to another level when you do what was on the War Memorial, and I just can't imagine how much anguish there is for a family member to see that and have a family member whose name is on that memorial. You know, but I'd also mention the category of public art. We are really fortunate in having a lot of public art, and it seems like these people are defacing the murals and other, like, we were just hearing that there's another round of the electrical boxes, which are, I think, beautiful pieces of whimsical art in our community, and they build community. And then somebody comes by and spray paints it with garbage. You know, there is a wonderful mural under the bridge at Cass Park of a woman enjoying a summer day, and somebody decided that was a place to put their message of sorts. I would love to see us as a community doing more to catch these people and to make examples of them, because the people who do this do it at night. They do it, you know, by themselves, and they hide. And they're doing that because they know it's wrong, and it is wrong. And frankly, identifying who they are and making it public who they are and the damage they're doing to community, I think, is an important public safety work. So anyway, I would love to see us do more to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Brown.
Yeah, Bob stole the thunder on the Rhubarb Festival, but my experience, the food is always good there at the Enfield Community Council. I also wanted to let everyone know, and Bob know, that I pulled the resolution again from tonight after discussing it with the county attorney and some other stuff I'll be glad to share with you later, Bob. Okay.
Thank you, Randy. Mike Lane.
We have a small board that has functioned ever since I've been on the legislature. It's called our Ethics Advisory Board. And we have to have one. And we have to have that board to review not only ethics issues for Tompkins County legislators and other elected officials and staff and employees, but also has the responsibility of looking at ethics questions that are brought to it from other municipalities that don't have their own ethics advisory boards. Most often, over the years, the advisory board, which is totally volunteer, I suppose, except unless you count our legislative chair, the chair appointed by the legislative chair, I should say, which is Rich John, who chairs the Ethics Advisory Committee. But he doesn't get paid any extra money to do that. Often they just do mundane things. They review our financial disclosure reports, and there are a number of those to look for conflicts of interest. And once in a while, there's an issue that comes up. Well, last year, an issue came up with respect to the city of Ithaca that does not have its own ethics advisory board. And so it came to the county by default. Our board did a wonderful job over a long time and a lot of meetings and came out with a report. I realized that some folks from the city were not happy about it. We saw an Ithaca Voice article in which some city people were quoted as basically attacking our Ethics Advisory Board, saying that they had done their own, they'd commissioned their own study and found no problem. Well, when you hire a consultant, whether it's an attorney, whoever it is, to do an investigation, that person is responsible to the municipality that's paying it. And that's what happened with the city. I'm proud of what our Ethics Advisory Committee did. They have no force, according to law, to make any sanctions, for example. They can just point out where there were conflicts and how they weren't handled properly at the city. Our own chair, Rich John, who got unfairly attacked in what seemed to me to be a situation where the best defense is sometimes a good offense. When he was attacked by people, including the city attorney, for trying to do his job. Rich, I'm very proud of what you've done here. And not only that, but when you actually stepped aside on the vote, so there would be no appearance of impropriety. I think that says a lot for you. So I'm very happy that we have an Ethics Advisory Board. I'm very proud of it. I'm sorry if there are some people at the city who were not happy with the report. But, you know, maybe they ought to step up and have their own Ethics Advisory Board so we don't have to deal with it. I think we would be very happy if they did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next, We have Dan Klein and then Veronica Pillar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to draw attention to an article that was in last week's Tompkins County Weekly about our own Lee Shirtliff. It was an excellent article. It's called Lee Shirtliff, Village of Groton Historian for Most of His Life. And there's all kinds of interesting stuff in there, including the fact that he was appointed Village of Groton historian as a freshman in high school.
I remember about that.
So I urge you to read it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. I love working with Lee, and I'm so glad he's on the legislature, and reading this article made me appreciate him even more. Thanks.
Way to go, Lee. You have your own fan club within this legislature.
I just don't want him to disclose how many years ago the freshman in high school was.
It does lift your high school graduation year, unfortunately.
Don't let all the fame go to your head. Veronica Pillar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, now I'm excited that it will likely be a short meeting, so I can read this article sooner, as soon as I get home. I wanted to pick up the thread about graffiti a bit. I thank you, JR and Rich, for commenting on the importance of the War Memorial and how deeply important it is to the families of folks who died. I know I don't have my own experience of what that feels like, and I do not condone defacing something that's personally important to people. But I guess I want to caution against painting a picture of what the people painting graffiti all over the town must be like or be thinking. For one thing, I know it's varied, and it's certainly unfortunate when you see someone's carefully done art defaced. But I also know, I know one person who's done some of the defacing of murals by painting messages like Black Lives Matter and we're on stolen land on them. And it may or may not be the greatest place to put those messages, but I think those were important. The person I'm thinking of doesn't live in the county anymore, so don't worry about finding them and making an example of them. And so I think, sometimes it's people maybe being asocial or harming community, but sometimes it's people expressing themselves who don't have necessarily a better avenue afforded them to express themselves. Or it helps people build community with other folks who maybe don't see themselves reflected in our official monuments. One of our public commenters mentioned Gavin Mahoney, who recently passed away, and I didn't know him, but I know a lot of people really loved and respected this guy and valued him for bringing people together in community. He was the artist behind the Lost Cat graffiti that I'm sure you've seen, even if you haven't noticed it, around the city of Ithaca. That tended not to be covering over other things, but it was defacing public things, and also it was really valuable for a lot of people. Sometimes it marked, I think sometimes it was just a cat, I don't know, but sometimes it marked places that were safe or welcoming for unhoused people to go if they're struggling at a moment. Some folks, now that he's passed away, some folks are fundraising for a permanent sculpture to honor him to go up in Press Bay Alley. So I think it's interesting that there's some fluidity of the boundary between public art that we condone and public art that we don't condone. And, again, I'm not saying that just everyone should be able to leave any mark on anywhere as much as we want, but I'd like to think about that a little more and also envision what would it be like if we didn't have to die either in the jungle or in a war to get to be able to be on a permanent public visible structure. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike Sigler?
Well, as you think about it, I wanted to add this to that, is that, public art, particularly in New York State, is protected. It is not, you can't actually deface it without, there's criminal prosecutions. And the reason that is, I mean, I'm not trying to tell anybody it's something you don't know already know. I mean, you're robbing that person of their First Amendment. I mean, literally, somebody has gone out of their way to go and do public art and take time and invest their life in that and to say, this is what I'm about. And then somebody else comes along and robs that from them. And I don't actually, while that message may be important, what makes that message any more important than this other person's message? And that's the rub for me. So anyway, I didn't mean to be explaining, but that's where I'm coming from.
Travis Brooks.
I do want to say this. As somebody that worked really hard with Black Hands Universal to do the Black Lives Matter mural on the street, that night somebody defaced it, and the community was hot. I don't understand how that's different. As somebody who has been working with local teens for the last 15 years, one of my staff at GIAC, to teach people that street art is a beautiful thing, because we had young kids spraying over, doing graffiti on artwork in public places. We changed the narrative in this community on what street art is and what graffiti could look like. And the idea that people could just come spray over it is very disheartening. As somebody who's been Black for 51 years, I don't like when people do things like that. They say Black Lives Matter over somebody's artwork, because that makes my struggle, people who look like me struggle. It makes the movement that much harder, because people look at it and they're like, yo, this is, why would you do that? This is terrible. It doesn't do me any service if that's the idea of it, is to publicize that my life matters or people who look like me, lives matter. It actually makes it harder for me. So I appreciate your opinion, and I agree with a lot of what you said, Veronica, but this idea that that's okay, that there's not a better way, that we can't teach our young folks how to use their voice, how to use their skill, how to use their, just how to use that better is troubling to me.
Thank you. Anyone else for legislator privilege of the floor this evening? Okay. Oh, Veronica?
Can I briefly, Travis, thank you. You reminded me I didn't say the one thing I wrote a note about, which is I'm not saying we should let people spray paint wherever they want, but more that stopping that should not just be a matter of like tracking people down and punishing them, but offering them better avenues for expression. You know, like you said, there's got to be a better way to do that, that folks can still create and express in whatever without stepping on what other folks have created and expressed.
Okay, next we're moving on. We do not have a topical presentation or discussion. And we will move on to reports by the County Administrator, Lisa Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few updates this evening. Once again, touching upon the migrant situation, just to make you all aware, County Administration, we've been engaging with departments and community partners, staying abreast of the situation through NISAC, and will continue to provide you with updates as we receive them. We're also receiving more detailed information from NISAC and various state agencies on the details of the New York State budget, and we're using this to update our 2024 budget estimates, and we'll share those with you at our upcoming budget retreat update, which I believe we're honing in on May 30th. Also, I'm going to be attending an ad hoc meeting of county administrators this Friday in Oswego, where I expect both the topics of the migrant relocation and New York State budget will be the headlining issues. So stay tuned on those. And lastly, the county's new homeless services coordinator, Tammy Baker, began in her role yesterday. So she's quickly coming up to speed, and we'll be hearing more from her in the future.
Great, thank you. And let's see here. Next is Deputy County Attorney Holly Mosher.
Good evening, everyone. I have nothing to report from our office, unless anybody has any questions about anything that's been going on. Bill's on vacation. We've been busy, I can say that. I'm assuming everybody knows that, that Susie Cook resigned, is no longer with our office. So we've been extra busy without Susie, so.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Holly? Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for Lisa Holmes? Okay. Next, we will have Lori Scarrett, who is our new Director of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple updates. The first being the upcoming auction for property foreclosures. We are down to 8 parcels. That auction will be held on June 5th, and those parcels could still be paid up to the date of June 5th. I did send out an updated listing of those 8 parcels to you about an hour ago, or an hour prior to the meeting. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. Also, the Finance Department's been working very hard on the year-end audit, working to get that going, as well as implementing a new accounting standard, GASB 87, that is a way we have to account for leases. And so we are working very hard on bringing that up to speed as well. Also, we had our Tobacco Asset Securitization Corporation meeting on this past Friday, and I want to let you know that all of the state reports that were required for that have been submitted to the Authority Budget Office with New York State.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Lori? Ann Corman?
Thanks. Just thank you for the updated list for the foreclosures. It, I think I can speak for all of us. It weighs heavy on us, you know, to see homes or property being foreclosed. I went out with the Town of Ulysses code official, Mark Washburn, to visit the one property that was in the Town of Ulysses and talk to them to see if there was anything we could do. There wasn't, but we at least made sure, you know, to at least talk to that person. And then I went back and gave them some information about the new county they're moving to, some resources, you know, to help them with various things. And so it was good but sad, you know, but it was important, I think, to at least know that that person had a plan, you know, to be able to move and to move someplace safe with their pets. So thank you for letting us know, and we always get the information pretty early, and that's really helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Lori? Okay, thank you, Lori. Appreciate it. Next, are there any resolutions to be added to and withdrawn from the agenda? Okay, Ann Corman.
Thank you. I'd like to add the resolution that you have in your red packets approving Clean Energy Communities grant application authorizing letter of commitment.
Okay. Seconded by Greg Mezzi. And we will need 10 votes in order to add this to our agenda, and we will need to do roll call votes this evening.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shurtleff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Deborah Dawson's asked to be excused. Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
It's 13 ayes. Resolution added.
Okay. Amanda Champion?
Yeah, I would like to add Resolution 11703, appropriation from contingent fund rural libraries.
Okay. Moved by Amanda. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Travis Brooks. And we will do a roll call.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Travis Brooks,
Yes.
Randy Brown,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Curry,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Shawna Black.
Yes.
13 ayes, resolution added.
Thank you. And Greg Mezzi?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to withdraw Resolution C, a resolution authorizing the issue of requests for proposal to expand broadband access ID number 11643. If I may state the reason, is for to give the Tompkins County Council of Government an opportunity to receive the presentation and weigh in with any comments prior to us taking this up on the legislature floor. And I expect that that will be on next meeting's agenda.
Great, thank you. And Randy, did you want to withdraw a resolution as well?
Yes, I'm sorry. I would like to, in front of me, remove the Enfield Community Council resolution regarding tax payments.
Okay. Resolution R. Okay, that will be removed as well. Now let's move on to the consent agenda, resolutions and appointments to be voted on as a group unless any member of the legislature requests that a resolution or appointment be instead included separately and individually as part of the business of standing or special committees. Health and Human Services, Resolution A, scheduling a public hearing for New York State Community Development Block Grant, number 1144WS131-20 Septic Upgrade Program, ID 11696. Housing and Economic Development, Resolution B, Tompkins Outdoor 2023 Grant Awards, ID 11600. Resolution D, authorizing a public hearing on proposed local law number C of 2023, a local law to amend the blank Tompkins County Charter Article 18, Department of Weights and Measures, ID 11634. Resolution F, Transportation Budget Line item.
E is off.
E is off. Yeah. So is C. Resolution F,
C was withdrawn, wasn't it?
C was withdrawn, yes.
But E is just off, and I'll move it on my report.
Okay, thank you. Resolution F, Transportation Budget Line Items Transfers, ID 11686. Resolution G, authorizing the Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 Urban Formula Grant for Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit, TCAT, ID 11683. Resolution H, authorizing for Federal Transit Administration Section 5339 Bus and Bus Facility Program Grant for Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit, TCAT, ID 11682. Resolution I, budget adjustment, budget transfer across budgeting units, 1450, Board of Elections, and 1692, Information Technology Services, ID 11668. Resolution K, resolution.
Off.
Oh, sorry.
J.
I messed myself up because, anyway, long story short, you don't care.
J.
Okay. Resolution K, resolution to update the Administrative Policy Manual Policy 4-18, mill expense reimbursement, meetings ID 11637. Resolution L, resolution to update the Administrative Policy Manual Policy 0607, procurement ID 11639. Resolution M, audit of final payment, scale service and supply, incorporated, scale replacement project, ID 11693. Resolution N, creation of position.
Off, please.
Okay. Resolution O, budget adjustment, acceptance of New York State healthcare worker bonus, ID 11674. Resolution P.
Off, please.
Okay. Okay. And can I have a mover, please? Moved by Travis Brooks, seconded by Amanda Champion, and we will do a roll call.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ian Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Greg Mezzi,
Yes.
Veronica Pillar, Lee Shirtliff,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Travis Brooks,
Yes.
Randy Brown,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Curry,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
13 ayes.
Okay. Thank you. That carries. Now it is time for us to move on to standing and special committees. Health and Human Services Committee, Dan Klein, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Health and Human Services Committee met yesterday, May 15th. We had two presentations. One was from the Human Services Coalition about their agency review process, and it's my understanding we'll be getting that same presentation at a legislature meeting in June. So I won't tell you anything now. No spoilers. And then we also had a presentation from Whole Health about tobacco enforcement in Tompkins County. They do enforcement of flavored vape tobacco products and also underage tobacco purchases. And they outlined for us some of their success stories, but also some of the ways in which tobacco retailers have figured out workarounds and loopholes to get out of paying fines, to sell products that they're not supposed to be selling, and to sometimes to get relicensed under a different name in the same location. And that happens via New York State. So that's, we're doing everything we can, but we do run up against some New York State procedures and laws that are making it harder for us. Our next meeting is Thursday, June 22nd at 2 o'clock, and that's been rescheduled because of the Juneteenth holiday. That is my report.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions or comments for Dan? Okay. Next is Housing and Economic Development Committee. Greg Mezzi, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last meeting was Wednesday, May 3rd, which you saw a few resolutions come out of that. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 7th at 3 p.m. And that'll be a conversation around homelessness and the unhoused. So more details to come on the agenda, and I'll make sure to share that with all the members of the legislature in advance.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Greg Mezzi? Okay. Oh, you do have a resolution, Greg, I believe. Nope. Thank you. Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
Yes, so we met on May 11th, and we spent quite a bit of time, going through our normal committee reports, and then we talked about the things that we had asked for from facilities regarding some of the downtown campus questions. One was the report on the completion of the building assessment for the Red House, and the other was an assessment for the Key Bank building as to what it would require to update those for county offices. The Red House was pointed out to us. We saw, Arel gave us photographs of it to look at, and it's really in worse condition than we even thought after the initial assessment. It would probably cost well over $2 million to update that to county offices. The Key Bank, as though it's a very solid building, because of the skin, which is basically the glass and the fittings for the glass, and to update different things like everything from restrooms to HVAC, it could cost as much as $5 million to update that for county offices. So we didn't discuss that too much further, but we decided we were going to ruminate on it. At our next Facilities and Infrastructure Committee meeting, we'll be talking more about that, and we should have someone that's being brought to us by our county attorney, Bill Troy, to give us some more legal perspective on the downtown campus and the issues we have with the buildings. Randy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add on the Red House, there was structural examinations done, and whoever does work on that. It's going to have to do some structural repairs in the basement, in the attic, the floors, pretty much everything. And it's quite expensive to do that. And somebody that doesn't have to bill it to county standards might be able to do it much less expensively than whatever that was going to be. So.
Glad to take questions, and I have one resolution.
Are there any questions for Mike? Okay.
Pulled the resolution which was Resolution E on the Constellation Energy supply contract, only for a change of the title to make it a little clearer what the resolution does. So I'm going to move the amended version, and the change in title reads, Resolution authorizing county administrator to sign contract for electricity procurement with Constellation Energy Supply. And I move it.
Seconded by Rich John. Any questions for Mike on the resolution or comments? Randy?
What we learned, and no questions on this, but the presentation that was given to us by Terry Curl, is that our electric rates are going to go up by 35 to 40% in this contract.
Greg Mezzi?
Lucky us.
Yeah, it was a really informative discussion, so thank you, Terry. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I think in advance of our budget conversations, it would just be really valuable to watch that portion of the meeting. I mean, the rest of the meeting was riveting, but just that part in particular would really be of interest to the budget process for sure, because it will have an impact. And thanks to Terry for putting all that information together in a way that was easily understandable.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's vote on Resolution E.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff?
Yes.
Mike Ziegler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
13 ayes. Resolution passes.
Thank you, Mike. Next, we have Government Operations Committee. Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you very much. We met on May 4th, a week and a half ago, I guess. We had a discussion with Leslie Tabor, our new library director. She came by. It wasn't so much to talk about services or what the library does. I think most of us are pretty well versed on that, but it was more to talk about what she sees in terms of budget this year and anything that she feels might be lacking. And I would just mention a couple things that she brought up were the sort of the weathering of the building itself, and that it might need some work on the outside to make it look more welcoming and new and fresh. So that was one thing. And just to be clear, she wasn't specifically asking, like, here's things I want. She was very grateful to all the funding that the county gives. But these were just things that, as a new director, she's noticing. The other thing was that the funding that we give is primarily goes towards staff, fringe, benefits, all that kind of stuff. And that is amazing and takes care of, operations. But a lot of libraries, apparently, the county or the, government funding also goes towards the collection. And this is not something that we do. So the library relies on the Friends of the Library book sale still happening, and the foundation and donations and that sort of thing. So again, something that, she just wanted to bring our attention to as something that we might want to think about. And then the other thing was succession planning. She has some staff members who may be thinking about retiring in sometime in the near future, and making sure she has folks to fill those big shoes. So it wasn't a long conversation, so you're certainly welcome to go back and watch 15 minutes, but it was good. let's see, we had numerous resolutions, most of which were on the list tonight. I would add that we talked with our clerks about spending a little bit of money to purchase some plaques to honor all of the legislature clerks of years past. So it would be somewhat like our poet laureate plaque up there, and Katrina did the research, and we agreed that it would be probably a good thing to spend some money on. And I can't remember, Katrina, how many clerks you said there are?
I am the 43rd clerk.
43rd clerk. So it will be 2 plaques, actually, and then it will have space for future clerks as well. So that's kind of fun and cool. We also had more riveting discussion on Robert's Rules of Order. We talked a bit about taking a recess. What did we talk about, Rich? I'm forgetting.
Put me on the spot. I agree, it was totally riveting, of course.
Things like personal point of privilege, like
That's right, yes.
Yeah, if you need to pause for a minute because the sun is glaring in people's faces, that sort of thing, or there's noises. So kind of like ways that you can pause a meeting for a few minutes. So anyway, clearly we all learned a lot.
Amanda, I think we also talked about how the meeting might be stopped if there was a disruption.
Right, that's right, definitely. So it's been good. It's been educational, I think, for all of us. I guess I'll stop there. I think we did good. We had a good meeting this time, and I think I have a couple of resolutions to do.
Okay.
So, okay, let's go with the one that was on consent agenda, resolution to update the Administrative Policy Manual, Policy 9-21, surplus equipment and supplies. And this one, we had discussed adding just another sentence on, under definitions, just to be clear that when we're talking about repurposing or reusing items or supplies, we're not talking about real property. And that was something that came up in discussion. We're talking about desks, paper, pens, that kind of thing.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Oh, sorry.
Seconded by Greg Muzzy.
So I'm moving the one that was in your folder, which has that sentence highlighted.
Any questions or comments? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ian Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes?
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
13 ayes, resolution passes.
Okay, and then I have the one that we added, appropriation from contingent fund rural libraries, and I've moved that.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Susan Curry.
And I believe that we had this one on our agenda, but it was listed under budget adjustment information only, so we didn't actually address it in the committee. But it looks to be as if it's a small adjustment that needs to take place for the rural library fund.
Okay. Greg Mezzi.
Not anti-library, just going to start with that. So everybody just calm down. I do have a question, though, as to why the contract can't be amended to what the budget was approved for, and why, because of an administrative error, we need to spend an additional $2,000 to correct that error. I just think it's, as stewards of the funds, that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer. I would look at Lisa.
I suppose we took the stance that since the error was on our side of the equation, that we would come forward with the funding. Is that accurate to say? It was our error.
Is an adjustment to a contract able to be done? I mean, is that an addendum that says this was I mean, they knew the budget number, and you do the contract after the budget numbers provided to them or requested by them. So I mean, I understand the good faith nature of this and understand the support for the library, but also question a little bit the $2,000 administrative error. And you know, no fault, mistakes happen, but can this be corrected through a change to the agreement as opposed to passage of additional funding?
I suppose it could. I was not the one in contact with the library, so I'm not certain if they've already committed those additional funds.
You sit back there. It was, they had it on, it really was an administrative error. They had this information on all the documentation that they submitted, except for what was actually in the budget book. Yeah, it was a little messy. But
I'm sorry, which
I mean,
information, the 215 or the 217 was what they expected?
They had 217 on their paperwork when they submitted it. It is an error, and we should have contacted them when that was noticed, but it got slipped through all the way.
All right, so that sits slightly differently because if they submitted 217 and we're expecting 217, and we typed it in as 215, rather than just making an error to the agreement, that seems different to me. So I can probably get behind that then.
Okay.
Thank you for the additional explanation.
Mike Lane?
I'm the president of the Southworth Library Association. I don't think I have a conflict with this, but I'm going to ask to abstain since a question's been raised about this.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mr. Lane's asked to abstain.
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shurtleff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
It's 12 ayes. Resolution passes.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Amanda? Thank you. Next is Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee and Corman Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our committee met yesterday at 10 a.m. and a couple of different things we talked about. One thing that was mentioned from our administration is that the Director of Recycling and Materials Management, replacing that person, the search is in progress. They also have a new employee. She didn't attend the meeting, but they wanted to let us know that Kate Collins has been hired there to be their communications person. Also, in that same department, if you haven't been over to the Recycling Materials Management facility, the scale that needed to be replaced on the outbound lane is completed, and one of our the resolution that was passed through in the consent agenda did the final payment for that. There was a question of what condition the other scale was in because it was pretty costly, over $200,000 to replace it. The other scale on the inbound lane is, they said, is in pretty good condition. They think it'll last another 10 years. And so let's see what else we had here. We had an update from planning on the Municipal Parks and Trails grant. There was a $10,000 amount that was left over from that wasn't awarded, and the committee gave the go-ahead to the planning department to extend the application period another month to see if other municipalities who hadn't applied yet wanted to apply for that $10,000. And those grants are $5,000 each, but they were awarded to, I think it was 8 different municipalities were able to get awards for their parks and trails. So so look for an email from Darby Kiley at the Planning Department, and please put a shout out to your municipalities that if they want to apply for that. We had Katie Hallis from CCE here, Cornell Cooperative Extension, regarding the food systems plan, gave us quite a lengthy update. And just a couple highlights from there. They're having 2 days of programming, a planning summit at the end of September. It'll probably be around the 26th, 27th, 28th. So if people are interested in attending, kind of mark that on your calendar. One of the big things that came up as when trying to look at all the money that is available, because there is a lot more money available right now, as people know, for a lot of different programs from the federal agencies and also from state agencies. But one of the things Katie talked about that struck me was that grants are really hard especially for small organizations, to try and wade through all of those. And I think that's something that's been brought up before, but we haven't talked about it in a while. It's also hard for them to also then figure out how to find somebody to adequately write a good application. And then there's reporting requirements that they have to do. And so often funding an organization, no matter what size it is, just funding it and figuring out how to keep it going in that respect can be a full-time job in itself. So that's something I'd like our group to keep looking at to see how we can help organizations. So she was talking about food system organizations, but it was pointed out too that applies to all small nonprofit organizations. And let's see, we have a resolution here that was put on the agenda, and I'd like to move the resolution approving Clean Energy Communities, CEC, grant application authorizing a letter of commitment.
Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Veronica Pillar.
Thank you. And this was brought by our planning department. This did pass the committee unanimously. And what this does is this supports our energy strategy, which was adopted in 2019, that it will help different homes be able to improve their energy efficiency, reduce their greenhouse gases. It will also improve indoor air pollution. And this is going to be administered not just through our planning department, but also through Whole Health. They're going to work with them and through their I think it's through the Healthy Neighborhoods program that the Whole Health department administers. And the cool thing about this is that for people who have gas or propane cooktops, they can get a portable one-burner induction cooktop. They will also help them with the pots and pans they need to cook on that, because you need to have magnetic pans. And then if they are moving, they can actually take that with them. So I think that's really cool. And so this is to help us apply. This is to authorize us to apply for the $30,000 for this grant.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ann Corman? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
13 ayes, resolution passes.
Thanks. And I just also would like to mention that one of the reasons that we're eligible for this grant through NYSERDA is because of a lot of the different things that we're already doing for energy efficiency and environmental things that we're doing. So we do things, and then we're eligible for more grants and more programs. So these kind of things kind of roll on top of each other. And the last thing I just wanted to say, our next meeting is June 22nd, which is a slightly different date because of Juneteenth. It was originally scheduled for June 19th. And that'll be June 22nd at 10 a.m. And so far we have Cornell Cooperative Extension coming to give an update. So I wanted to make sure people knew that ahead of time, because at least in other years, people have wanted to come and ask them questions. And also Soil and Water will be coming and giving an update. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ann Corman? Okay, thanks, Annie. Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee, Dan Klein, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything's going very smoothly and quietly with this committee and this process. Contracts are being finalized, payments are being submitted and received. So I really don't have any details to give. Our next scheduled meeting is June 5th. It is possible we won't have to have that meeting because there's nothing to meet about at this time. So you will definitely get advance notice whether we are meeting or not. That's my report.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions or comments for Dan? Oh,
We're looking into it.
thank you. Okay, Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Lee Shirtliff, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Budget Personnel and Capital Committee met on Monday, May 8th, in the absence of Chair Deborah Dawson, who advised me to keep it crisp. So I did then, and I will now. Most of the activity from the agenda reflects on the resolutions tonight. We also had a presentation from the consultant that was working with us in the compensation study. And Ruby and Lisa also helped to explain the compensation study results. And as of that day, the results were released to the bargaining units. And of course, you all as county legislators have received those reports. And so we have one resolution on the agenda tonight, resolution number Q, that accepts the compensation, Tompkins County compensation analysis, and I will move that.
Okay, seconded by Mike Lane. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
13 ayes, resolution passes.
You done?
I think resolution number P was
N and P.
set aside.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what?
And N.
Oh, N as well, okay. Well, resolution N was creation of position Community Justice Center, ID number 11678, and I will move it.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Rich John? Mike Sigler?
And I asked to have this pulled because we, I don't know, we've been spending an awful lot of time talking about this year and how difficult it's going to be and how much money is going to be needed. And we were talking about a 5% increase and how we didn't want to do that. And I mean, we had even discussed maybe a soft hiring freeze. And yet, I was surprised when I saw on the agenda that there were actually creation of a position. I was surprised at that. So I'm going to be voting against this.
Lisa, did you want to add something, information to that?
Sure, I can just speak to this position. It's part of the Reimagining Public Safety Plan, which is funded through a series of 3-year one-time funds. It's not, it's a part-time position that is paid for out of the one-time funds and does not contribute to the tax levy.
Is that matched by the city?
Sorry?
Is that money, funds matched by the city for that position?
Yes, I believe so. Is that accurate? Yes.
Okay, I have
the city pays for
Rich
half.
John, Greg Mezzi, and Randy Brown.
My understanding, this creates the position. It doesn't actually commit us to do a hire. So if we were looking to consider any issues related to our 2024 budget, we could still do that. Is that correct?
That is correct. But again, this would come out of fund balance and it's not a permanent tax levy position.
Greg Mezzi?
Just to go back to the budget process in the OTRs, was this position listed as part of that those one-time OTRs that we approved?
That's correct. It was approved. It didn't make it to the end of year resolution. So it's already in the budget. It didn't make it to the resolution at the end of the year where we create and abolish positions.
Got it. So we're just sort of cleaning up the budget. Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Randy Brown.
That was my question. Thank you.
I'm going to pipe in. So I'm going to support this. I mean, we committed as a legislature, I don't know, 3 years ago to do the Reimagine Public Safety. And I know we're a year and a half, 2 years in, and at different times we've been able to hire different people. It's taken us a lot longer to hire people than we ever intended. It's been slowed down by the commitment from the city. And I think we need to see what this office can do fully staffed. So, any other comments, questions? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Greg Mezzi,
Yes.
Veronica Pillar,
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
No.
Travis Brooks,
Yes.
Randy Brown,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Curry,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Shauna Black,
Yes.
and Mr. Lane's away. I have 11 ayes. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
We also had Resolution P, approval of amended bylaws, Tompkins County Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, ID number 11484.
Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Travis Brooks. Mike Sigler?
The only reason I asked this pulled was I went through the packet, and I just don't know what the changes are. And that may not be just because of this. That may just be standard operating procedure for us, and I like to see, like, what's been struck, what's been added, things like that, and I just didn't see it in the packet, so.
I'm going to ask Veronica, as Chair of Workforce Diversity, to
Yeah.
speak to this.
I don't have all the changes in my head. The most recent Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee packet does have, I think, like the old version, the version with all the edits, and the clean new version. A lot of the changes was updating names of stuff, like titles that have changed in the past decade. We also picked a number for the members of the committee and added some clarifying language about where those people should come from. It's pretty open-ended, other than of the 13 people, previously it was a range, should have at least 2 legislators, at least 2 staff members of the county, and at least 2 community members, and the other 7 could be from wherever. I don't know, were there other substantial changes?
Well, it was incorporating, the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, putting that title in there, and some responsibilities. But really, we thought, too, that once that person is rehired or that position is filled, we wanted to leave it flexible, that, we might have to come back and change some things then. But there wasn't, cleaning it up, it hadn't been revised in quite a while.
Yeah, I think other than the number of members, for the most part, it was like catching up the bylaws with what is happening at the county in and around the committee in practice. And also, just because it came up at BCP, we are aware that this, some standardizing guidelines for advisory board bylaws may be coming out soon, and these may or may not be follow the as-to-be-determined guidelines, but the committee decided we're fine with updating it again, within a year if we have to, since it had been since 2012, since these have been updated in the first place.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Be a roll call.
Dan Klein,
Yes.
Ann Corman,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Greg Mezzi,
Yes.
Veronica Pillar,
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff,
Yes.
Mike Sigler,
Yes.
Travis Brooks,
Yes.
Randy Brown,
Yes.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Curry,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Shauna Black.
Yes.
13 ayes, resolution passes.
Thank you. And if there's anyone that would like to give Deborah Dawson a rise, please text her and let her know that we're excited about building the jail in the center of government. And we only have about $75,000 left in the fund balance. I dare you. Okay.
Fire station.
And the fire station, that's right. Okay, any questions for Lee Shirtliff for budget capital personnel? Okay, thank you, Lee.
Shauna?
Yeah.
Just in connection with the workforce study, I did want to commend our staff. That was a lot of work. So I don't know if, oh, Ruby is up on the screen. I know there was a good bit of effort to get to the finish line on that.
Thank you, Rich. Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Veronica Pillar, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. WDIC has not met since our last full legislature meeting, and our next meeting is on Wednesday, June 28th from 3 to 5 p.m. My only other update is I did track down a fuller description of the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award that I will email out to everybody hopefully tonight, once I can figure out the Outlook word editing situation.
Okay, any questions for Veronica? Next, Public Safety Committee, Rich John, Chair.
Thank you, Shauna. The Public Safety Committee has not met since our last meeting. We will be meeting next Tuesday. We've moved our meeting from typically the third Thursday to Tuesday because of a conflict. So next Tuesday, May 23rd at 3 o'clock, we'll be meeting. I anticipate we'll be covering our ordinary business, but I anticipate a discussion about progress on the jail working group and also a discussion regarding how we could track overdoses in the community. And I just also offer our jail stats as I do. 63 currently in the jail with 1 board out. So we are running a little high.
Amanda?
Just you talking just right now made me think of, I watched a show on Hulu called Dope Sick. And it's a limited series, but it was just very moving and sort of follows a couple of threads of the Purdue Pharma and some people in Appalachia who got hooked on opioids. And I just highly recommend it. It really made it feel very personal, the situation that so many people are in, and of getting addicted to Oxycontin and how it all sort of came to be. It also follows a thread of the law enforcement, state attorneys who were sort of trying to uncover what was really going on and bring it all to light. And so, I mean, we've all been hearing about it for a long time, but that's what good stories can do, right? They can really make you feel it. So if anyone has Hulu, watch Dope Sick. It's a handful of episodes. It was really powerful.
Thank you. Anything else for us, Rich?
I just got a comment from Veronica to remind, there is a survey opportunity. We have opioid settlement funds, and there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on how we could be spending that money. I believe, I don't want to say the number, $700,000. So it's a substantial amount of money that could be used to a specific purpose. And Amanda, thank you for your comments. This is something where Tompkins County is not escaping this by any means. We are seeing consistent high overdoses. What we don't really know is how many are really out there. It's a very hard number to track. One thing that we have done as a county that I'm very excited about is we have added some capability in our district attorney's office, in our assigned counsel, in our Community Justice Center, and I think our Department of Emergency Response to do some data analysis. And hopefully, we can walk through how to get better visibility of this issue. Because if you can't see it well, it's really hard to do things about it. And so, anyway, that's the discussion for the public safety meeting.
I'm sorry, Mike. Travis, did you have your hand up? Okay.
I was just kind of wondering whether Travis wanted to report on the study committee that we've been working on.
The working group.
The working group.
Or task force, or whatever we're calling it.
For the opioids?
No, for the jail.
Oh, we met last week. We had a second meeting. We had a really good discussion on, really what folks would like to see in the jail, how that would work. We got a better understanding of the budget. LaBella gave a great report on the report that they did, a presentation on the report that they did. We'll meet next month for next steps and kind of hone in on what the possibilities could look like. We'll have a design expert come in. Some of the folks that shared at the talking groups or the focus groups were at the meeting. Two of them were on the committee, so it was great to have them there. So I think we're moving along well. I think we'll be done after the fourth meeting.
Thanks, Travis. Anything else, Rich? Okay. Any questions for Rich, John, or Travis? Okay. Next, we have the minutes of a previous meeting.
Donna? If I could just, I've been asked to report on the Industrial Development Agency, Tompkins County, met on May 10th and considered several issues I just wanted to bring to the legislature's attention. One is we approved a revised project at the base of State Street Hill. It's entitled BVSHF 3 Ithaca LLC. But what it is a very large apartment project that would be built on the parking lot at the base of the hill. And it would add 372 housing units and I think 238 parking spaces. And it's estimated at a $166 million project. The annual taxes, I think, are in the neighborhood of $2.6 million when fully through its tax incentives. So this would be a substantial project. We also considered some amendments to our housing policy, which would increase the payment into the Community Housing Development Fund to account for inflation. And we also had a presentation on a project where they're looking for some financial support for a shared commercial kitchen that would act as an incubator for small restaurant and food product businesses in our community. That I thought was pretty exciting. We're gathering more information on it, but it may be that the Development Corporation or the Industrial Development Agency would provide some financial support to that project.
Thank you. Any questions for Rich on the IDA? Okay, thank you. And it is that time for us to move on to the minutes of our previous meeting, May 2nd, 2023. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Veronica, seconded by Travis Brooks. Any changes, questions, comments? Okay, we will have a roll call vote.
Dan Klein?
Yes.
Ann Corman?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Travis Brooks, Greg Mezzi?
Yes.
Veronica Pillar?
Yes.
Lee Shirtliff?
Yes.
Mike Sigler?
Yes.
Travis Brooks?
Yes.
Randy Brown?
Yes.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Curry?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Shauna Black?
Yes.
13 ayes.
Thank you. Can I have a mover to adjourn?
Can I ask a question?
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
When we went to Zoom meetings, I think our county attorney then recommended that we do roll call votes. But in a situation like tonight, where we only have one member of the legislature out there, couldn't we just do our regular vote and just ask that person how that person votes?
I believe that was part of the local law that we passed, that we were going to do roll call if someone was in attendance virtually. I will check into that, though.
I don't remember that, but if that's the case, then I guess we have to.
I'll check into that, Mike.
Okay, can I have a mover to adjourn? Moved by Travis, seconded by Rich John. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that is everyone. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.